Hey everybody, and welcome to this iOS development tutorial. In this tutorial series, and it will end up being a series, I suspect I'm going to do multiple videos to cover this particular topic. We are going to create an iPhone application that essentially has a table view whose rows are populated using data that we pull from the web from a MySQL database. So our components to this particular tutorial series are naturally Xcode, Objective-C, but we're also going to use MySQL, which is a RDBMS that's available on most hosts on the web. We're also going to use PHP, again, easy to write, available sort of all over the web. And we're going to use something called JSON, and JSON will be generated using PHP and MySQL. But before we get into any of the code in Objective-C and in Xcode, we are going to take a look at what JSON is. So if you have, or if you're familiar with JSON and you know how to generate it, you can certainly skip this video and just move on to the next part in this series. Now I am using PHP in this particular scenario, but you can certainly use whatever programming language that you like. Most of them will likely have a JSON encoding function. PHP is really easy to use, which is why I figured I'd use it as an example. Now let's look at the definition for JSON. JSON is essentially JavaScript object notation. It is a text-based open standard that's designed for human-readable data interchange. It's derived from JavaScript, as you can tell from the name. It's used to represent simple data structures and associative arrays called objects, and it's language independent, despite its relationship, as you can tell from the name, to JavaScript. So hopefully this is a good example and tells you all you need to know about JSON and how you can use it. Just kidding. We'll take a look at some sample JSON code, and I think this is actually the easiest way to understand what JSON is. What you have to remember is that, if we jump back here to the previous slide, that JSON can be used to represent simple data structures. It's essentially like an associative array. Now if you look at the JSON code, what I've done here is I've got one big block, this is all JSON, and within it is several different rows. What's happening here is I've got a MySQL database, and I've written some PHP code, and that I'll show you in a second, and that code is essentially pulling the data out of the database and displaying it as JSON. Now we talked about key value pairs, so let's take a look at just this first record that is in this key value pair format. So key value pair simply means there's going to be a key, like in this case it's ID or city name or city state, city population country, and each key has an associated value. So here you see the ID is 1, city name is London, city state's London, the population, country and kingdom. And if you look at the remaining code, you'll see that all of these things take the exact same format. So you have a key and you have a value associated with it. This makes it extremely easy for us to sort of traverse through the structure and use it. It's easy to read for us as humans as well. Let me show you real quick also the database that I am using, and I will go ahead and give you the code. It's a pretty simple database or simple set of simple table within the database that we're using. So I've just got a database that I'm using here. You'll see there's nothing much. It's there's an attribute called ID, which I use as my primary key. Then I've got a city name, state, population, and country. This directly corresponds with what you're seeing in the JSON data. And then I just did, a couple little inserts and put that stuff in there. So easy, no problem. I'll give you the script. That way you can just go ahead and run that on your database server and set this up so you can kind of test against your own database instead of depending on mine. I'm also going to show you the PHP code that we wrote to connect to this particular database server, and I will make this also available to you so that you don't have to really spend a lot of time on this portion. Since this is really an iOS tutorial, I didn't want to have to waste a bunch of time explaining this. But let's just zip through this code real quick so you can see what's going on. I've got a couple different variables that I'm defining in PHP. You'll see the host, which is our database host server, the name of our database, the username and password. These are of course all made up values. You'd want to replace this with yours. Then we try and make a connection to the database using the MySQL_connect function. We check to see if the connection was made. If it wasn't, we fail with an error. Otherwise, we try and select the database using the MySQL_select_DB function. Then we check to see were we able to select the database. If no, then we throw an error. If yes, then we go ahead and set up our query and we run that query. Then we put all of the record sets into an array by using this MySQL fetch underscore fetch underscore associated. Put that in an array, and then this is the simple little function that does all of the magic. So the JSON underscore encode function gets past our array here, and it essentially will output all of that data as JSON. So it's super easy to do in PHP. Again, like I said, I will give you this code. All you would have to do is create the database using the script I provide, and or use whatever script you like, and just generate the JSON data appropriately. So I hope this was helpful in giving you a quick glimpse as to how easy it is to generate JSON using PHP and MySQL. In the next couple tutorials, we'll be really looking at the iOS side of things, where we set up our application to be able to consume that data and really create something cool. So thanks for watching. We'll catch you in the next video.